All righty. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Good morning, those of you joining us live via Facebook, and then those of you that are joining us on YouTube. Good morning to you all. Olanda, good morning. Charnicia, good morning. Pro Braids by Jazz, good morning. Wanda, T. Wilson, Stenix, Carlodia, Marquita, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Those of you joining us live on YouTube, Lachey, who is a star sender. Good morning, Lachey. You are number one this morning. Nene, Lachey's coming back for her championship, for her title. Farina, good morning. Good morning, Patricia and Nicole. Tina, I see you. Good morning. Good morning, Vanessa. All of you joining us this morning. Pam, good morning. Thank you for being a top fan and a star sender. Thank you. Good morning, Princess. Hope, good morning. Good morning to all of you. And good morning. It's a new day, and I'm excited about it. Now, Facebook has been freezing up, and we're not really sure what's going on with Facebook. So if something happens, I want to say out the gate, you guys jump over to the YouTube side, and then you can still, get to hear what we have to say today. But good morning to all of you. I pray that you all had a great night and that things are well for you. Kisses back to you, Renee. Good morning. All right. We have been talking all week about God's heart and God's plan for the nations. And I said to you all the other day that it's important for you to understand that God wants to move you into the world. And so, I've been talking about so many great things, been talking about Esther, been talking about the nations and Abraham and all of the things that God wants to do, or people that he's used in the past to get his plan fulfilled and accomplished in the earth. You are the carrier and the container of God's presence. You are also the carrier of God's mission in the earth. And so it's just important that you get yourself in a place where you can get yourself educated for that mission. And a lot of people don't think that it's important. No, I'm good. No. It's important for you to get someplace where somebody can train you and help you, prepare you for the things that God has called you to do. That is an important piece of our journey. We say preparation time is not wasted time. And there's some of you, the Lord has called you to do something great. And so just get yourself in a place where you can grow more and you can learn more. And so we were talking about Esther, and I want to just kind of pay attention to some things because I brought this out last night. If you did not get to see myself, Lazani Belton, and Dana World Patterson last night on World Outreach Center's site, I want to encourage you to go back and watch that entire episode. Watch that and then watch the one from the previous weeks, because it's really going to help those of you that know that God's hand is on your life. We broke some things down that I think will be really helpful for you. But I want to talk today about the importance of preparing yourself for the things that God has called you to do, because this is an important, very important piece. We talked about Esther. And again, I talked about this last night and how God called Esther. She thought that she was just another woman being chosen out of all of the women, the beautiful women in that part of the country, to be put on display for the king to choose a bride. And she didn't know that God's hand was on her to the degree that it was, and that God was going to use her for the nations, for a nation, to save a nation of people, which was the nation of Israel. And what she did is she didn't resist God's moving in her life. She didn't say, I'm not going to do all of this and you all can't touch me. You can't do. No, for 12 months, she allowed somebody else to groom her for what God had planned for her. And the same is true for you and I. It's important that you allow someone else to groom you for what God has for you, because you can't do it all yourself, because you don't know it all. And there are people that have gone ahead of you, people that have experienced some things that you haven't experienced that will be highly beneficial to where it is that God is trying to take you. And so there are things that you learn on your journey, and I'm telling you that he will use you. And so one of the things that I was talking about yesterday is the importance of letting go of the past, and again, go back and look at it. I'm going to just kind of briefly go through this for those of you that may not have gotten an opportunity to see it, but it's so important for you to let go of the past. I think I just turned my mic off. It's important for you to let go of the past, the things of the past, because the past does not define you. And the past is not going to help you get where God has called you to be. You may have made some mistakes and you may have done some things that you're not proud of. And what the enemy will do is the enemy will take those things and he will use them against you. And so you don't want to allow the enemy to put anything over your head. He can't hold anything over your head, because God said, as far as the east is from the west, I won't remember your sin or your mistakes. And then sometimes it's not sin. It's just things that you didn't know to do right and you did them the wrong way. And so you can't let the mistakes of the past stop you from advancing and moving forward. I'll tell you all this story. When we first started, I shared with you all, when we first started our ministry, we did exceptionally well the first 7 years. Or by the 8th year, I started making decisions because I thought I was making decisions to help the ministry grow. And unfortunately, some of the decisions that I made were decisions that were not the right decisions. And it cost us greatly. And it's something that I will own, but I'm not going to live under it. But it's something that I'll own, whenever I talk about successes in ministry and how I've had to navigate through some things. And so I made some bad decisions. And ultimately, those decisions cost us. They cost us in resources. They cost us in people. It just cost us resources. We paid a lot of currency, digital currency, people currency, money currency, you name it. We lost a whole lot of stuff. And I take ownership of it. And so what was happening is that after the mistake, for years, I sat in that. For years, I was struggling with the idea that I had made that mistake, and I started seeing myself through the lens of failure. I'm not good in business. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm going to stop. I'm not going to do business anymore. I'm going to leave business to other people. Instead of thinking about, okay, I made some mistakes. Let me get with some people that can teach me how to do this and how to do it well. That revelation didn't come to me until maybe 3 years after I had beat myself up. So for 3 years, I walked around in this dark cloud where I just always, whenever I talked, I didn't think that my words had any value. So I just kind of muzzled my mouth. And even when I would talk and then second guess the things that I said, wondering they probably don't want to hear what I have to say. What I said probably ain't going to mean anything to anybody. So on and on and on, all that stuff that I was saying and all of that stuff that I was going through, seeing myself through the lens of failure. And so what ended up happening was God began to deal with me. And thank God for John Maxwell, because John Maxwell said something to me that was so impactful. And it was, you didn't lose, you learned. And those words really touched my heart. You didn't lose, you learned. You learned what to do and you learned. See, that's what happens when you're going through life. You learn what to do. You also learn what not to do. And instead of living under the thumb of you made a mistake, you're a loser and all of that, his words pulled me out of that space and helped me to understand, Melba, you didn't lose. You learned. You learned a great lesson. And even though people left, the ministry started to decline, you lost money, even though all of those things happened, they were lessons that you learned. My husband tells the story about this guy that worked for this multi-million-dollar company, like a 9-figure company. And he made a mistake that cost this company $1.5 million. And so he went inside the boss's office, and he was prepared for them to tell them, pack your bags. We're going to have to let you go. So he went in. He was crying as he went into the room with his boss. His heart was beating. And when he got in there, he went into his boss and he sat down in the chair, and his boss said, tell me what happened. And so he began to rehearse to his boss the things that he did. And what he said, I didn't do this. I messed up here. I made a mistake here. I should have done that. And so what he could see where he missed it. And he said, and I understand, he said, I have my desk cleared out by 12 o'clock, my office cleared out by 12 o'clock today. And the man turned around to him, the owner of the company said, oh, no, you ain't going nowhere. He said, you learned $1 million mistake. You learned $1 million, not mistake. He said, you learned $1 million lesson. One advantage that you will have that none of the other employees will ever have is that you learned a very pricely, costly mistake. And I don't think I ever have to worry about you repeating that mistake, do I? And the guy was like, no, sir, you don't ever. He said, go on back to work. He said, it cost us. Yes, it cost us, but I'm not going to let you go for that. Look at that. What happened? He knew that this man understood and would also operate from a context of understanding what to do and what not to do. He learned a valuable lesson. And so this boss didn't have to worry about him repeating that mistake again. And so moving forward, this young man, he knew that this young man was going to think strategically versus thinking off the cuff. A lot of times we don't realize that we make mistakes when we think quickly instead of praying about it and giving our self time to meditate on it, and even seeking counsel about some of the decisions that we make in life. We find ourselves making decisions and they don't work out for us. That's okay. Don't get under that. You have got to understand that you were made and you were called into the kingdom for such a time as this. And being one that's called into the kingdom for such a time as this, like Esther, go of the past, because mistakes are inevitable. And your mistakes cannot take this journey with you. They cannot go with you. You've got to leave those things behind you. And so we have to grow. And the only way that we're going to, the only way that we're going to grow, the way that God has called us to grow, is to recognize where we've missed it, learn from those mistakes, and move beyond it. Because if we don't, what will happen is that our mistakes will become a choke point for us and we won't be able to move beyond that. And so it's time for you to grow beyond the threshold of your pain. Yes, every time you get to this point, it reminds you of where you were. I was in this space before. And last time I made the wrong decision, choking point. What's going to happen? No, we're going to peel those hands off of our neck and we're going to say, but I'm going to go anyway because I learned a great lesson. Instead of turning left, I'm going to turn right. Instead of looking behind me, I'm going to look ahead of me. And so I'm just going to do what I didn't do before. I'm going to move forward and I'm going to use wisdom as I'm going forward. I'm going to trust God and lean into him. And so there's too much to do. There's too much for you to do, to be thinking about the things that you've done in the past and being afraid of the mistakes, because what they're going to do is they're going to steal time from you. They're going to steal focus from you, and the more that you think about the negative, the more you move yourself into it, because whatever you're meditating on, that's what you're going to manifest. And so it's important for you not to talk about it, for you not, and the only reason that you would talk about it. I love the illustration, that my husband will use sometimes when you're thinking about a basketball player or a professional athlete. When they go back and they watch their reels, what's the purpose of them going over those reels? They go over those reels to pay attention to where they missed it before. And it's to strengthen where they're going. It's not to just sit in the fact that, okay, these are the mistakes that you made. Look at that. Keep looking at it. And don't you ever make that mistake again. No, that's not the purpose of that. The purpose of those reels is to say, remember, now this time you moved over here. Next time, move over here. It's so that you can see what happened and strategically make moves that will ensure that you don't repeat those mistakes. It's not so that you can be condemned and feel guilty and ashamed of where you missed it, but it's so that you can see it. And then you can make a decision to go in a different direction. And so there's too much at stake. There's too much at stake for you to spend time meditating on the things of the past. And so if you've made mistakes of the past, do the work of getting over them. And I'm not slapping high five on it, get over it. I'm not just saying it like that. I'm saying whatever the process is to help you get over it, go through the process. Don't sleep on yourself. Don't disappoint yourself. Do the work. Make yourself do the work. Do the mental work. Do the emotional work. Do the physical work. Whatever it is that you need to do, whatever currency you need to pay the currency so that you can get yourself where you need to be. And don't be afraid to start over again. Once you do what's necessary to move yourself beyond where you were and how you missed it, don't be afraid to start over again. With your heart beating, get out there and do it all over again. We've all missed it. We've all missed it. Every person, there's not a person living or a person dead that hasn't missed it. But we understand that living with fear of making another mistake is going to cripple us, and it's going to become our greatest limitation, and it's going to be your greatest weakness. And so our call for the future has to be larger and big enough to propel us to face the heartaches and the struggles that we might face along the way. We've got to do it. We've got to do what we've been called to do in spite of the things and the pains of the past. Yes, you were hurt. Yes, something happened that shouldn't have happened, but you get up. You may have lost somebody. Maybe somebody died when you were trying to run your business or start your business. And that's creating in you a mindset that every time I step out to try to do something good, something bad happens. And that's a limiting belief that will keep you in this prison. Nope. Get out there and do it. And I'm sorry, even if something is taken away from you, get out there and do it. Get out there and do it and move yourself beyond all of that, because God has great things for you. I shared with you about the woman who would not lose weight because she was afraid that if she lost weight, somebody in her family was going to die. And so it's just so important, you all, that you don't limit yourself, that you don't inflict pain upon yourself. We do more damage to ourselves than the devil or anybody else. And so you've got to work through the pain, because pain is inevitable. Pain is inevitable. And I made this statement last night. Pain is inevitable, but freedom is contagious. And when you learn to walk in your freedom, it's going to draw so many people to you. People are going to see. They're going to see, wow, I remember when you were down. I remember when you were depressed. I remember when your mind would fold up on you and you didn't know what to do. Do the work, you guys. Do what you need to do. If you need to get a therapist to help you unpack some stuff, do it, because your future is depending on you to do the work that you need to do. And as long as you recognize that you have limiting thoughts, limiting beliefs, as long as you recognize that there may be some dysfunction, emotional dysfunction in your thought life, and then you do something about it, that's the moment that your healing process begins. Don't go through things and realize that there's something that you can do about it and not do anything about it. When I hit a cap educationally, and I realized that I was stunted in how I could, in certain conversations that I could have, I just saw that I was falling behind. That's when I made the decision to go back and get my master's degree. And has it been a struggle? Has it been a journey for me? Yes, it's been a journey. I won't say it's been a struggle. Time management has been the greatest challenge for me. But being in school, it's been amazing. God is blessing me. I'm a 4.0 student. I'm doing well. But what if I had stayed behind that limiting belief that said, you're too old now, Melva. You don't need to go back to school. What if I had listened to those limiting beliefs that told me, well, your season is up. It's over for you. No, I made up my mind that I'm going to reinvent myself. I'm going to recreate myself. I'm going to make myself better. I'm going to make myself stronger, wiser, smarter. I'm going to do the work, because nobody can do this work for me. Nobody. And that's the thing that you all have to understand. Nobody is going to do the work for you. Nobody can do it for you. You have to do this for yourself. So you have to always show up for yourself. Nobody else. If don't nobody else get up in the morning, I'm up. I'm up every morning. I get up every morning and I take a shower. I get dressed every single morning, because Skip can't do it for me. My kids can't do it for me. I have to do this for myself. You have to move yourself into the places that you desire to be yourself. Nobody else can do this for you. I can give you the wisdom, but I can't move you to it. I can take you to the water, but I cannot make you drink it. And so it's inevitable. It's inevitable that pain is going to come. Hurtful situations are going to come. But don't you fall asleep on yourself. Do what you need to do. Learn to suffer well, because it's a part of your journey. Prepare yourself for it. I tell this because I think it's important for people to know. I thought that one time in my life that if I did everything right, that I would never go through anything. I thought that everybody would love me. I thought that, that I would never have any major issues in my life. I was wrong. When I said yes to the call of God on my life, and this happens to anybody that's just living, it's not just about you fulfilling the call of God on your life, but these things do happen when you're fulfilling, in hot pursuit of it. I've been talked about, I've been lied on, I've been abandoned, I've been stolen from, I've been deceived, people have cussed me out. I've had to believe, I've shared with you, I've had to believe for my husband's life twice. My son suffered a brain aneurysm. My daughter, went through some challenges. I mean, we've been through a lot. And I like to repeat it because it's important for people to understand you're going to go through something. Prepare yourself for it. Don't be afraid of it. Just know that God is with me no matter what I'm going through. God is with me. And he's promised that if he's with me, he's more than the world against me. And so I can face the issues, that are ahead of me. But what I cannot do is face the past. You can address the past, but I can't face the past because I can't go backwards. I'm only designed to go forward. And so what am I going to do with the past? I'm going to stop allowing it to talk to me. I'm going to stop allowing it to dictate where I can go and what I can't go, where I can't go. If you grew up and people told you as you were growing up, you'll never be this and you'll never be this, or they called you names and those names are still with you, unpack that. Get someplace, allow somebody to help you unpack that, because you need to understand that in order to go where God is taking you, you're going to have a mindset that allows you to go. Your mindset is what determines whether or not you go. And if you don't address what you're thinking, how you feel about yourself, how you feel about the world around you, people around you, how you feel about God, if you don't address that, you will continue to find yourself being choked out. You'll only get so far. It's kind of like a dog on a chain. That dog will go so far and, you'll start to head out, but you don't realize that there's a limiting belief around your throat, around your neck, or around your leg. And the moment that you go to try to jump over the fence to get, whatever it is that's on the other side of the fence, you get to a certain point in the yard and you get yanked back because there's a chain that's there pulling you back. That's what limiting beliefs will do to you. So you have to deal with them because God wants to take you places that your mind can't conceive. I tell you all this story. My sister invited me. Oh my gosh. I didn't even have my son Kyle at the time. I want to say in maybe 1994. My sister invited me to go on a cruise with her. It was the first time I had ever gone on a cruise. And one day in the cruise, it was a 7-day cruise. One day on the cruise, we had docked in this place called Tortola in the Caribbean. And I will never forget, I was going for a walk and the ship was getting closer to Tortola. And as the ship was moving into Tortola, I had never in my life seen anything that beautiful. I have since that time, excuse me, because I made up my mind after seeing Tortola that I would never live the rest of my life not seeing the world. And so when we pulled into the dock of Tortola, I'd never seen land that beautiful in my whole life. And I remember standing there and looking at the mountains and looking at the trees and looking at the beautiful blue water. And I just stood at the front of that ship and I bawled. I cried. I said, I cannot believe that this exists, that there are places like this that exist in the world, and I've never seen them before. And I began to think about why. Why had I not ever seen them? Because my grandmother was afraid of water. And, she wouldn't go on cruises. And so consequently, she never exposed us to anything with water. My grandmother, rarely flew. She would drive or get on a bus and go most of the places because she had somewhat of a fear of flying. And so those things were handed down to me. But I'm going to tell you, the minute I started flying, that thing was broken in my life. I would get up, and I still do to this day. Before I get on an airplane, I touch the side of that airplane and I command it to pass over to the other side. What am I doing? I'm addressing any level of fear that might try to creep up on me. And I was flying so much at one time, I was on an airplane and that airplane hit turbulence that was so bad when I got off the plane, I was throwing up because the turbulence, we were up and down, up and down. I was so sick when I got off that plane. But you know what? When I finished throwing up, I went and got on my connecting flight because I was determined, even though I was holding on the whole way and praying the whole way through, I'm like, no, fear, you will not steal from me what God is trying to give me. And I'm going to tell you something. If you're a person that's called of God, you're going to have to get your passport And you're going to have to be okay flying 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 24 hours. You're going to have to be okay with that. Because if you're going to connect with the nations of the world are not in the zip code that you live in. Some of them are in different places. And you've got to be willing to go wherever it is that God is calling you to go. I hope I've said something today that's been beneficial to you, that's helped you to understand that God's going to use your life. And he's stretching us. I'm telling y'all, he's stretching us in ways that we've never been stretched before. Hope I've said something today that's encouraged you, that's been uplifting to you, that's helping you so that you can understand, I got to move, and I got to move now. I'm not waiting for anybody else's permission. I'm not waiting for anybody's attaboy, anybody's affirmation. I got my own affirmation, 66 books of them written in the Word of God. And so I've got to move. God bless you all. My name is Melva Henderson. I hope I've said something today that's added value to your life. I know I slowed it down, but I slowed it down because y'all got to get it. Love you all. Appreciate you. Go ahead and like us on every platform. We're on Clubhouse, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram. Like us, follow us. Come on, y'all. We're going someplace and we're going to do the will of God for our lives. Love you. Thank you to all of you that have sent us stars today. If you haven't ever sent us stars and you find value in the things that we said, go ahead and send us some stars. We appreciate you all. Love you much. Have a great day. Bye-bye. See you soon.